So in this video, I kicked it off with a hack to making your bananas baking ready by putting them in the oven. It really helps soften it up and get it to that nice like puree texture. If they're kind of baked off and those sugars can really help soften up the banana. Now I chose to use banana because of the popularity of the fruit. Bananas are the most widely grown and eaten fruit in the world, so I know that more people are gonna have access to this ingredient because they are just so available, which is a big part of our process here at Tasty, is thinking not only about what is great and delicious, but also what do people have access to and what's like maybe already on your kitchen counter that you wanna just like throw into a recipe. This style of muffin is actually inspired by a French pastry where, excuse my French, I'll probably butcher the pronunciation, but it's tigre, which is like tiger. And I think it's because by adding the chocolate sprinkles, it kind of looks like it has tiger stripes. Now that pastry is actually a tea cake where it's like a little financier that has the chocolate sprinkles, and it's sometimes filled with chocolate ganache. And I thought it was such a cool pastry that I've never actually seen around in America, and adopting the same stylistic characteristics and transferring it into a muffin, which people are probably more likely to be familiar with and want to make at home. So just like the tigre, I use the chocolate sprinkles just to give it that cool stripe feeling to the dessert. And then once the muffins came out the oven, I used just the back of a wooden spoon to create a little hole and fill that with chocolate ganache. So it kind of like elevated the breakfast muffin to like a next level little delectable thing. Don't know what to call it, but they're good. That's all that matters. So there's a joke in Tasty about how much I bake with bananas, considering they are far from my favorite fruit. Now, I'm not a complete banana hater. I just don't like them once they are ripened. But I keep my personal prejudice aside because I know literally planet Earth loves bananas more than anything. And there's actually a lot of waste tied to bananas because once they reach a certain point, most people think that they're inedible and want to toss them in the trash. So my first Tasty video I ever did was actually 4 different ways to bake with ripe bananas. Literally millions of bananas are tossed out every day because people think that they're too ripe and they don't like how they look. And funny enough, the ripe bananas are the ones you want to bake with. So if you have ripe bananas in your house and you're like, ugh, I don't want to eat that, I feel you, I understand. Put it in the freezer, bake with it later, and you can make some muffins. This recipe was a journey. This is not a pour. So here's where trouble is right now. So this recipe took a lot of development to nail down. I mean, the amount of math and science, figuring out volume of batter I needed for the whole cake. What I'm going to do is pull out my calculator and figure out within my 2 cups of chocolate amongst 4 bowls and divide it so it can properly scale up, as well as how much stabilizer I needed in order for the colors to not bleed into each other. Uh-oh. Oh, so it's hot. The simplest way to approach this recipe is I wanted to make 1 mother batter for every color of the cheesecake and then divide it into 4 different bowls. That way, each bowl got its own quantity of chocolate to create a different tone of brown. Just get in there. I feel like these are almost too close in color, so maybe just a little bit more so it can be very distinguished. Part of the difficulty was just the mechanics of filming while cooking, because when I would put down a bowl to change camera lenses, the batter itself would actually start to set. So the idea is to like pour them all into the pan. This is not a pour.
You can microwave.
Microwave it?
Mm-hmm. But you have to change the container.
Yeah. So I'll put it into a microwave-proof container. This could set our kitchen on fire. And
15 seconds.
great.
Yeah.
Solutions by Rie. So each batter has to remain kind of loose and warm up until it's all done, and then it can go into the fridge and set. So a tip that I learned was while making this cheesecake, at any point you have to stop or take a break, microwave the batter for 20 seconds or so just to get it refluid before you start pouring, and wait until you have a window of time to pour all 4 colors before you do it. Because if you pour layer 1 and then take a break and then try to pour layer 2, it's not gonna push out and you're not gonna get a nice, beautiful, even ring. So it definitely requires your full attention while making.
Fingers crossed for layer 3.
I'm just like ready.
We're rooting for you, layer 3.
Come on, layer 3. I'm living in like the Twilight Zone right now.
You did it!
This cheesecake is definitely one of the more aspirational desserts I've made. It requires a lot of attention to detail and patience. So if you are a hobby baker and you just want to like dedicate an afternoon to making something like really stunning and beautiful for your friends or family for any occasion, this is definitely a fun recipe to like take on as a challenge. I really have a genuine interest of knowing what other flavors can be made with this cheesecake. So if you do make another flavor, please let us know, pop in the comments, and maybe I'll give it a try too. This recipe is a total throwback to my childhood. Back in elementary school, we had these magazines where you could order Christmas gifts for people, and they had this 4-flavored cheesecake where it was 4 individual cheesecakes cut up into quarters, but all put onto one piece of cardboard. And I figured I could probably try to make it all in one pan. So what made this cheesecake a bit tricky is that I wanted to divide up 4 very liquidy, fluid items. The thing that made the most sense to me was to use ingredients that were already in a cheesecake, so I opted for graham crackers. So once I got through the structural part of the recipe, the next challenge was the 4 flavors. Cheesecakes are really fun because you can flavor them with whatever you want, but each different flavoring component has its own chemistry. So each cheesecake batter ended up having its own texture and consistency. So I had to play around with every single flavor to make sure, one, it tasted really good, because end of the day, it doesn't matter what a dessert looks like. If it does not taste good, it doesn't really matter. And then also that it was thick enough where once I put it in its corner, it didn't budge, it stayed put, but was still like nice and creamy once it was all set. When it came to choosing flavors, the number 1 obvious one was chocolate. I love chocolate, everyone loves chocolate. And chocolate hazelnut spread is really thick and creamy. So I knew once I folded it into the cheesecake batter, it was gonna be really thick and would hold up. Now, the other flavors, not so easy. The second flavor I wanted to go with was lemon. Because it's a non-baked cheesecake, I think lemon is a really good, bright, fresh flavor. It's like very summery, and it's honestly one of my favorites. So I used lemon curd because if I put in lemon juice, it would have been way too runny. And then I just added a little bit more lemon curd on the top to make it visually pleasing. The third flavor I used was just for the plain Janes in the world. Everyone needs something simple. So I just did a vanilla cheesecake, but to give it like a little bit more oomph and make it just as pretty as everything else, I added some raspberry jam, vanilla, berries, classic combination. So I just swirled in the top to make it very pretty and then added some fresh berries on the edge. Now, the 4th and final flavor ruined me. The 4th and final flavor was meant to be caramel, but the consistency of that varied so much between every product I used. Some were super runny, some were so thick I couldn't even fold them in. And it was really tough. When I was testing this recipe, I thought the cheesecake was done, it was beautiful, and then as we're filming the beauty shots, the caramel completely fell apart. It literally was oozing out of the side of the pan because there's way too much water in it. But our lovely friends in Brazil have created a great food product called dulce de leche, which has a very similar taste to caramel, but it's so smooth and thick. So once I figured to use that, it was smooth sailing from there, and all the flavors were good to go. I wanted people to have the option of having that like prized double flavor slice of cheesecake, where you cut a 1/4 inch of what's on the left and 1/4 on the right, and you have like a 2-for-1 special. However, I think all the flavors go really well together, but I had to check. So I tested double forkfuls of all the flavors just to see what went. And the only one that really didn't go too well was a lemon curd and chocolate. So in the final cheesecake, I put them on opposing ends, and then everything else was good from there. The most struggling part about developing this recipe was to make it simple. I wanted to be like very all levels friendly. It's easy to make things complicated. It's difficult to make them simple. It's my philosophy of recipe development. This video didn't take long at all to do. Took like a day. Full flavor cheesecake.